Welcome to the Laverne Church of the Brethren's weekly audio message. Here at the Laverne Church of the Brethren, we create a Christian community called by Christ to be inclusive, caring, and peace-minded. We affirm that people of any race, ethnic identity, gender identity, sexual orientation, ability, age, economic status, faith tradition, or life situation are welcome in our congregation. We believe in compassionate service, stewardship of creation, respect for diversity, and nonviolent reconciliation for differences among all people, nations, and faith traditions. We claim no creed but the New Testament as exemplified by the life of Christ. We strive to follow the way of Jesus. And through these efforts, we seek to grow ever closer to the mind and heart of God. And now let us ground ourselves as we enter into today's message.
Today, I will be reading Matthew 25, verses 35 through 40. For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me, naked, and you clothed me. I was ill, and you comforted me, in prison, and you came to visit me. Then these just will ask, when did we see you hungry and feed you? Or see you thirsty and give you a drink? When did we see you as a stranger and invite you in? Or clothe you in your nakedness? When did we see you ill or in prison and come visit you? The ruler will answer them, the truth is, every time you did this for the least of my sisters or brothers, you did it for me.
Michael Stern's song, Stand Up, offers a lens through which to hear today's gospel reading and to grapple with our concerns about the current happenings of this day. Stern issues quite a provocative challenge in his chorus. So I didn't stand up, and I didn't ask why. And by the time they came for me, there was no one left to ask why. These words are jarring, and they get my attention because they speak to one of my deepest fears, of being left alone, with no one to stand with you in the midst of a crisis. But yet, in these words, I hear a call to reflect upon how I am living and leaning into my faith that celebrates Christ's compassion. It's a call to us. How are we responding to the least of these? Will we stand up and ask why? Do we recognize Christ in our midst? In Matthew 25, we find Jesus' last parable in the Gospel of Matthew. It's his final lesson to the disciples and to the community of faith. And with this text, Jesus makes a rather dramatic point. The message in this passage is personal for Jesus. And Jesus also takes it personally. Jesus identifies with the hungry, the thirsty, the stranger, the naked, the sick, and the prisoner. Every time you do this for one of the least of my sisters or brothers, you do it for me. Do you too feel like this text was written for this time? The phrase, the least of these, is quite prophetic and applicable to a time. I mean, Jesus can be found among the immigrants who are being captured, detained, and deported. Jesus is in the least of those. But Jesus' way offers a needed alternative to the empire, to nationalism, to consumerism, to secularism, and to the abuses that we are witnessing. Herein lies the poignancy of Stern's song for me. In his confessional lyric, Stern is challenging us to stand up and ask why. Jesus and Stern's point is what happens to others should matter to us, to all of us. We're not exempt. Will we embrace this countercultural possibility that's embodied by a humble servant called Jesus? Or will we give ourselves over to the version of government that is all about domination, supremacy, triumphalism, and a self-perceived greatness? Our society seems to be enamored with the loud and the aggressive, and have forgotten that the only power that Jesus wielded on earth was the power of giving himself away. I mean, Jesus entered this world like every one of us, red-faced and crying. But yet, in Jesus, we see another type of power. Power that's demonstrated when he rides a donkey into town, when he washes the dirty feet of the disciples, and when he allows his life to be broken for others, and even when he cooks fish for his agnostic friends on a beach. Jesus embodied another way. I mean, how did we get so far away from the one who emptied himself of all privilege and who poured himself out for others? How did we get so far away from that? I mean, in our current political and global context, I find myself perplexed and frustrated and almost paralyzed by the chaos. But thankfully, there are voices that are rising that offer another way. Voices that embody hope. Voices that are voices for the voiceless. Last week, an interfaith vigil for the disappeared and the fearful was held in Claremont. Many people were there. That was encouraging to witness in light of everything that's happening. Yesterday, I participated in the Legal Observer training offered by the Interfaith Coalition for Immigrant Justice. It's a way of equipping individuals to assist with ICE out of Pomona movement. It's a little way of standing up. A little way of offering hope to people who are afraid. Thank God for the voices that are rising. Through our summer sermon series, we've been attentive to one of those voices, the Anabaptists, who remind us and call us back to our radical roots. Roots in which the Anabaptists stood up and spoke up in spite of threat or danger. Today's light is in honor of Drew Hart, a modern-day Anabaptist. Drew resonated with the vision of the Anabaptists of following Jesus and taking him seriously and of being a voice for the voiceless. On a side note, I'm looking forward to the release of Drew's new book in September entitled Making It Plain: Why We Need Anabaptism in the Black Church. Couldn't he have written it a little earlier to help us in this series? But Drew finds a home in Anabaptism. In another book that he wrote entitled Who Will Be a Witness, and perhaps many of you have read it, Who Will Be a Witness? Igniting Activism for God's Justice, Love, and Deliverance. In this book, Drew lifts up the 16th century Anabaptist Menno Simons as a voice to be listened to and heeded today. In 1529, Simons offers this description of faith. True evangelical faith is of such a nature it cannot lie dormant, but manifests itself out in all kinds of righteousness and works of love. It dies unto the flesh and blood. It destroys all forbidden lust and desires. It seeks and serves and fears God. It clothes the naked, feeds the hungry. It comforts the sorrowful. It shelters the destitute. It aids and consoles the sad. It returns good for evil. It serves those who harms it. It prays for those who persecute it. It teaches, admonishes, and reproves with the word of God. It seeks that which is lost. It binds up that which is wounded. It heals that which is diseased and saves that which is sound. These words spoke to Drew and have inspired him in his studies and his work as an activist. When Drew was in college hanging out with his friends, a group of white friends, and Drew happens to be African American, he received a call late one night from his mom with an urgent development. His older brother, who had been out with his friends on that very same night, was arrested. His brother was arrested because he fit the description. A black young man in a black t-shirt. And so the police drove by once, took note of he and his friends. They drove by again, and then a third time, and then they stopped and arrested his brother for no reason other than fitting the description. Since that incident, Drew has emerged as a voice for the voiceless, and he has challenged the system, seeking to correct racism that is so much a part of our culture. Drew is standing up, asking why, and speaking out because he realizes that he could have been just as easily arrested as his brother. Jesus is in the least, and the lost, and the broken, and the wounded. Jesus is in the unpretty places, in the bodies that we don't discuss in polite company, in the faces we don't smile at, and in the parts of town that we speed by. But Jesus is found in the least of these. Matthew 25 depicts a scene describing the culmination of history, when all the nations will be gathered around before Christ, and Christ will separate them as a shepherd does the sheep and the goats. But in the hearing of this text, did you notice the criteria for the separation? Did you notice what it will not be? It's not our confession of faith. It's not our beliefs. nor is it our doctrinal statements or commitments, or even our personal relationship with Jesus. The criteria is compassion, and compassion alone. The gospel reading, Michael Stern's song, Drew Hart and others' testimonies asked to see Jesus in places we would rather not look. They remind us that every encounter we have with the least of these is an encounter with Jesus. They invite us to stand up with Jesus in the places of brokenness and in a spirit of hope. In closing, I want to revisit Michael Stern's song, Stand Up, and especially the final verse, where he sings, "Still they come for the outcast, for the poor and the refugee. Though I am not an outcast, and I am not poor or a refugee, but now I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to ask why. And if sometime they come for me, I hope there's someone standing by my side. Yes, we're going to stand up, and we're going to ask why. And if sometime they come for us, there will be lots of people standing side by side. A whole lot of people standing side by side. A whole lot of people standing side by side, committed to compassion. May it be so.
We're so glad that you listened to the message today. If you're looking for an open and affirming, peace-loving, and justice-seeking congregation, consider visiting us for in-person worship on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. We'd love to meet you.